Recently, the last leader from OP12 was leaked, that being Koala, and what that means is that we now have all 6 leaders from OP12 available. That means we now can take a closer look at one of those leaders, that being Sanji. Now, in this video, we are going to take a look at the leader typing, ability, and what kind of synergies and combos it plays into with its effects with the now available cards. We will also take a look at some OP11 cards, or rather OP11 cards, and EBO2 cards, which have proven to be really good in some other decks that come out in the future, that being the Ruffy decks from EBO2 and OP11. But for now, we are going to take a look at Sanji, and let's read its effect first. Now, its first effect is activate main once per turn. Don -1, you may activate one card from your hand with an original cost of 3 or below with the type Straw Hat Crew. And the second effect reads the following: when attacking, if you have less Don cards on your field than your opponent's Don, add one resting Don card from your deck. Now, there's quite a lot of stuff to dismantle here, but we will start with the color combination first. I think this is a really good color combination, and given the first effect of this leader, it has great potential with a good 2 to 3 cost events that already exist. And we will take a closer look to those events in the card list section, but for now, the first impression is that there will be good events to utilize with this leader's ability. Additionally, the synergy is just on hand. I mean, the first effect plays perfectly into the second one. Minusing a Don to activate an event, and that event will be basically for free because your leader ability ramps you that Don back. And that really is the biggest upside to this leader, because it has a really easy to accomplish ramp integrated to the leader ability. Being a Straw Hat type leader just tops it off, because Gum Gum Giant is still a thing, and it is such a thing that can turn a mediocre deck into a mid one and a mid deck into a top contender. So that's Gum Gum Giant for you. One thing that is weird is that this leader has the Windsmoke family typing, which basically is useless. While still being a Germa 66, it doesn't have the Germa typing, which means it has no access to all the cool Reiju stuff and Germa 66 stuff in purple, which would definitely benefit this deck, but I guess that would be too OP. One more negative aspect would be that this leader is a 4-life leader, and you know what they say, 4-life leaders have it harder on the street, so this leader could be problematic with maintaining life, but there are options to consider to compensate for that too. We will have to look into the card list for that, so let's meet over there. Now, looking at the card list we have on hand, we can see that there are many options. You can pause and go through these options. There are many more, but these are the most viable ones, I think, and there is stuff inside of here you should make room to be played in your Sanji list. For example, this Bentham, this Bonkley, it's just that good of a card, and this Monkey D. Luffy as well. I mean, there is great stuff like this new Luffy, which has Rush and can bounce a 4-cost to your opponent's hand. These are all great options, but I opted to not play these because there's a specific identity, specific route and curve this leader wants to go, and that does not include any of these cards. Of course, there are cards that are good, that have better options available as well. That's the reason why they weren't put into the deck. For example, this Sanji is easily replaceable with Jozu, which is more important, I think. If you want to go a more hand resource style, you need to put more blue stuff in, and if you want to ramp fast and have a little Pluffy engine, you have to put stuff in like this, like these 4 cards maybe. But I didn't opt to play that route. I wanted to revolve the deck around a very common card for another Luffy leader, for the EBO2 Luffy leader, and that would be this Sanji Pudding. Sanji Pudding is a great option for this leader. Why, you ask? That is easily answered by the ability it has. When 2 or more of your Don cards are returned to your Don deck, set up to 1 Don from your Don deck as active. And it has a nice little bonus effect too. On play, if the number of Don cards on your side are equal to or less than your opponent's, draw one card. So this card can already replace itself if you play it on the correct timing, but more importantly, it can get you 1 Don back in addition to the ramp you have available with your leader. So that means we can tinker a little bit around that. What's the first effect of our, or rather the other effect of our leader? That would be using 3 cost or less events for free. So if we look at events that fall into this category, we have, for example, this Gum Gum Jet Culverin. Main, return up to one of your opponent's characters with an original cost of 4 or less to the bottom of their deck. So you can see the synergy there. I play out a Sanji Pudding minus a Don with my leader to play an event, and that would be this Culverin to bottom deck a 4 cost. But the thing is, I wouldn't get the Don back from this Sanji Pudding ability. That's right, and that's where this card comes in, and this card as well. So this basically is a KO any 6000 power or less, and this card is basically a rest any 5 cost or less and then draw another card, so it replaces itself as well. So you now can play this, and those cards would replace themselves like they are free, like it's free stock value. And the great thing about that is that you can do these 2 things in the same turn, or this and this, and you would only minus a total of 1 Don for that, for having used 7 Don and for having minused 3 Don. That's actually crazy, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. Everything around here is built around the fact that we want to get this, and this working. So if that works, this deck can work too. I feel like we have to take a look into the curve analysis for you to grasp on it real big time for understanding it. So let's dive into that. Now into the curve analysis, what you can do here now is the following. You would want to go second, I suppose, because the Don management fits going second a bit better than going first. And if so, you would want to play the Trafalgar Law on your first turn, or maybe the 1-cost Searcher event just to net you a search and further go down your curve. But if you have both, why not play both, net yourself 2 searches, and after that you would pass to your opponent. Your opponent now on his 3 Don turn would swing 1 in your life. I would advise you to counter out the first one if you have what you want for your next turn, and if you didn't find what you wanted, you can also take that life. But let's suppose you didn't swing because you already have what you want, then you would be at 4 life. Trash a hand card to counter that swing, and now you would go to your second turn, which means you would ramp to 4 Don. And with 4 Don, if you have the Frankie in your hand, perfect. You can play out the Frankie, which has a blocker and an on-play ability, which lets you draw 2 cards at the cost of minusing 2 Don. So now you would put 2 Don back to your deck and go to your end of turn, and end of turn you would be with 3 Don left because you would have swung with your Sanji leader, which nets you a Don back. So end of turn you would probably, if you did all the steps right, would be at 3 Don. So now we pass back to our opponent. He's at his 5 Don turn. He most likely will remove this Frankie given the meta, but if not, he will swing into your life again. This one you can take or counter as well. I would treat it as if we have been countering this to stay healthy. We trash another life card, hand card to retain a life card. So our opponent passes back to us. He plays something, doesn't really matter. So now we are at our 5 Don turn. We should be at our 6 Don turn, but the Frankie minused us 2 Don, from which we only was able to get 1 back. So that's the mathematics here. We are at 5 Don. And what we can do now is immediately play out the Sanji Pudding. Sanji Pudding, because we are at 5 Don and our opponent is actually at 5 Don 2, can now draw us a card, an additional card to the 2 cards we drew from Frankie as well. So this is actually perfect because the minusing with Frankie was actually kind of beneficial for us, because both the Sanji Pudding effect was able to be procced, so we draw 1 additional card, and our leader ability is now usable again. So last turn we ramped with our leader, and now we can ramp with our leader again if we do it correctly. So now we have played out the Sanji Pudding for our 5 Don turn, and what we can do now is use our leader ability the first time. So because we have 8 searches in our deck and we have enough events that fulfill this leader's ability or play into it, we probably should have one of these in hand. Let's suppose we have the Gum Gum Lightning in hand, so we now can minus a Don with our leader. So we would go back to 4 Don and then minus 2 additional Don for the effect of Gum Gum Lightning, but we will be able to KO the character or opponent played recently completely. So it was his 5 Don turn. He will probably play a 5-6 body or maybe a 5-7 body and maybe a 4 cost body, but in that case we also have options in the Gum Gum Jump Rope where we can rest the character. But if it's under 6000 power, we comfortably can use the Gum Gum Lightning, and in using the Gum Gum Lightning, the board of our opponent will probably go down to 0, and we now will have the Sanji Pudding and the Frankie on board. And what happens here is that we minus 3 Don in total with the leader ability and the Gum Gum Lightning ability, so we go down to 2 Don. But now we can use the Sanji Pudding effect to get a Don back, to ramp that Don back, to go to 3 and attack with our leader additionally to get 1 extra Don back. So we would get 2 Don back in total and go to 4 Don, and in our next turn to 6 Don. So now we pass back to our opponent. Our opponent will do what he has to do. It's his 7 Don turn. Our opponent will swing into our life again. We will leave the Frankie standing because we want it standing, so our opponent swings into our life. This is the first life. If everything goes according to this curve, we will take then, and we will go down to 3 life. Our opponent had a 0 character board, so that will be the only swing. And now we go back to our turn with 6 Don, and we have the option to do anything. We can play a Jozu because we are exactly at 6 Don, and the Jozu will bounce a character of our opponent on our opponent's side back to its hand. Because the opponent was on his 7 Don turn, it's most likely that he played a character with 7 Don, but if he didn't, with a cost of 7 Don, but if he didn't and he plays anything under that, our Jozu can bounce that back. And what he does additionally is he can bounce our Trafalgar Law back to hand we played earlier the game, and that nets us a card in hand as well and clears the board of our opponent again. And let's suppose that our opponent has a deck which can cheat out characters, and he had an additional character on board. We can still use our leader ability, minus 2 Don with the Gum Gum Lightning or the Gum Gum Jump Rope or even the Jet Culverin, and get rid of that character. So that's something to consider as well, and that's something you can always comfortably do with this leader. But if he has nothing on board, we can bounce. Let's suppose he played a 7 cost, or Gum Gum Lightning is out of range for that, or Jump Rope and or Culverin as well. So we don't have anything much to do. We can actually go ahead and play the Sanji blocker, the 2k counter Sanji blocker, because we have less Don than our opponent. He's at 7, we are at 6. He will come out with 3. With a cost of 3, so we can play out that, and then we additionally can play out the Tony Chopper to ramp us an extra Don, which could be necessary, could not be necessary, but I think it's up to what you have in your hand. We can also stack the Don and swing into the life, but let's suppose we just played the Sanji and nothing else, because we can't have anything or everything in our hands. So we pass to our opponent after we swing with our leader ability and ramp us an additional Don back, so we will be at 7 at the end of our turn. We pass back to opponent and it's his first 9 Don turn, and now he will start playing big characters, which will be the only characters on his board if we played correctly, because up to this point we were able to bounce almost anything he played or just KO it, and now we can go ahead and control the game for us. Our opponent probably won't be at that much board presence in this state of the game, and we now, because we ramped to 7, can go ahead and ramp 2 additional Don for our turn and continuously put 9 cost monkey Luffy's on the board to swing into life just menacingly. But that's a route you can go, It's not definite, but it seems that it is the best route to go. And if we go this route with this deck, I think one card we should consider playing is the Gamma Knife, because with Gamma Knife we can additionally minus any character on board with a menacingly 5000 minus, and that would put many stuff into the range of our Gum Lightning, so we could comfortably KO any 11,000 swingers on the board. So that's a consideration as well. But that's as far as it goes. This is all the cards we have now available we can judge it on. We need to see what happens in the future, what kind of support this leader gets alongside OP12, and I think there will be some other 3 cost or lower events that can shape this deck in a very, very different direction. But with what we have right now, this seems like the most viable option, and I would, if we are going to get nothing else, I would assume you would want to put Gamma Knife into this too, to comfortably KO anything what your opponent plays on any turn, on any given turn. Having Gum Giant is just the other side of that, and right now in this kind of list I put together, there are only 8 2k counters, so this deck, as I mentioned, could be lacking some defensive measurements for it, but the Gum Giant is always prevalent for that reason, so I don't particularly have any doubts to this deck having a great potential. I think this deck will be strong, probably one of the strongest in OP12. The other leaders we maybe go over to if you want me to do, but that's it for now for this Sanji. Feel free to write any of your recommendations, additional thoughts about this leader into the comments, and feel free to let me know how this leader could turn out and how you think it will be ranking on the meta tier list. Thanks for watching, and until then.